So by this point, hopefully you have been able to answer 11, 12, and 13. Now, 13 was not meant to be like a trick question. I'm meaning, I know it shouldn't have matched up perfectly on your graph with a specific number, but I wasn't trying to get you to like 132 and a half or something like that. I wasn't doing any of that business. So a rough approximation on your part will get you a good answer. Now, the next part, the reason we do that shortage and surplus stuff is to figure out how markets behave when there are price ceilings and when there are price floors. Now, price ceilings and price floors are manipulations of the market, generally imposed by a government entity for various reasons here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about what they are, and then we're going to look at them on the graph. So a price ceiling. Think about the ceiling here. My ceiling is right here. And if you ever heard the phrase the glass ceiling, the ceiling holds us. The glass ceiling is this idea for especially women workers that they get to a point where they just can't go any further because there's this ceiling that holds them up, whether it's from getting a promotion and rising in the company or getting a pay raise and seeing an increase in their salary. They run into the ceiling and boom, it keeps them from going up. So a price ceiling keeps it from going up. So think about it for a second. If the price is not allowed to go any higher, that means that this price ceiling is located above or below the equilibrium price. Think about that for a second. So the ceiling, again, holds you. You can't go above it. All right? Does that mean the price is going to be below the equilibrium price or above it? Think for a second. It's going to be below it. So over here, $5, I'm going to make this a solid line now. This could be a binding, we'll talk about that in a second, price ceiling. Because, think, again, you can't violate it. It's set in law that, okay, the price of the iPhone 6 has to be $5. And so you cannot go above it. You run into it. Oh, Target wants to go to 6. Nope, sorry, can't do it. Could you sell it for 4? Sure, but you have to be below the price ceiling. You cannot go above it. The way to remember this here, so I kind of wish I had this drawn a little bit better, but if I look here, this is my house, this is my front door here, this is my chimney, my clouds coming out of it. Well, this right here is what part of the house? That's the ceiling. So if you think about it, your equilibrium point makes your tip of your roof here, and that is your ceiling, if you need a way to visually identify that. All right? Well, now, think about what the floor does for you. The floor keeps me from falling down. All right? So now, think, if the floor keeps me from falling down, is a floor found above or below your equilibrium price? Well, this one was below, so the price floor has to be above. So you go like this, and this is a price floor, a binding price floor. And again, I kind of wish I had this drawn a little bit better, but you could draw your little house here. Get my door here. My chimney would be here. And this is the bottom of the house, so this is the floor. Now, students will always mess this up because they think, oh, the floor is on the bottom. It's low. The floor is low. No, no. Binding price floors are up top here. They'll think, oh, ceilings. Ceilings are high, high. Oh, binding price ceiling over here. No, no, no. Ceiling, floor. Now, when they do this, you get exactly what we did in the surplus and shortage video. A binding price ceiling gets you a price that is very low, so you get shortages. A floor gets you prices that are very high, gets you surpluses. Let's talk about some examples. The one that economists always talk about, it's in like all the books, rent controls. So in New York City, they control the prices of rent, and they do this. They say, okay, rent can't be higher than this. Well, that creates some incentives. You think, oh, wow, that's great. You know, it makes housing affordable. Sure, it does. But it also has another incentive, and that's for the people that build rental properties or supply them. They say, No, I don't want to make rental properties that I get this measly rent. I don't want to do that. So you notice when the price is very low, with a price ceiling, your suppliers say no thank you. So that's why a lot of times economists will say if you want to destroy a city, impose rent controls and it'll work very well because nobody's going to want to build housing in that city, despite the fact that there will be a lot of people that really want those. And so the story that used to go along was in New York City, you would see people searching for apartments by looking at the obituaries. Oh, well, this guy doesn't need his apartment anymore, and he's been living in it for 60 years. I'll try there. So that is a real-world example of a price ceiling. Now, price floors, you might think, what's the one that everybody would talk about? Well, can you think of any service that there might be a certain price floor upon where you couldn't charge less than a certain amount? Well, this is a little bit tricky because it's in the factor market, but think about your minimum wage. The minimum wage works exactly this way, or as some people would argue, I guess, that it works in exactly this way, where you set a price above the equilibrium price. You say, hey, employers, you have to pay your people at least this amount. You can't go below it. Can't do that. Can't do that. Can't go below whatever it is, $7.25, $7.75. I'm not 100% sure what it is nowadays. But you can't go below it. Even if you want to, can't do it. Now, this may sound great. You think, man, I'm a worker. I sure would love to have that higher than equilibrium wage. That's great for me. And you know what? It'll encourage people to get off their hind ends and go supply labor. So you notice your quantity supplied of labor gets really high. You get a lot of workers that want work for a higher wage. However, if I'm a boss, man, we talked about this in macro, I'm not really thrilled with the idea of paying you more than equilibrium. So I'm not going to really demand that many workers. So some people claim, you know what, a higher minimum wage sounds great, but all it does is create a surplus of workers who can't get jobs. If we priced wage of labor, or if we put the wage a little bit lower, maybe workers would get hired more because employers would think, good deal. All right. I'm going to put up a graph for you to practice on in just a second, and it's going to go along with your worksheet. Try your worksheet first, and then come back and look at my graph. Okay?